I never imagined I'd have to sit down and talk publicly about my own mother, but here we are. I'm 46 now, and my mom, she's 72, has always had a complicated relationship with me. She was a very traditional kind of woman, the type who believed her only place was at home. She never worked outside the house and ended up raising a huge family, 13 of us in total. I've always felt that was far more than anyone should take on. She came to the States from El Salvador when she was just 15 and settled down here. That's where she met my father, started a family, and pushed all of us kids to live by her old-fashioned ideals. Honestly, that part didn't really stick. Most of my brothers and sisters have distanced themselves from her completely. 2 of them have passed on, which still weighs on me. I'm the only one who stayed close and looked after our parents. After my dad passed away, I took over paying my mom's expenses so she wouldn't have to worry. It hasn't been easy. She's always been difficult, especially when it came to how she treated my marriage. She constantly spoiled my husband and sided with him in every disagreement. I was clear that I only wanted one child, and when we were dating, he said he felt the same. But once we got married, his tune changed. He said he wanted a house full of kids. To make matters worse, my mom actually helped him tamper with my birth control, and that's how I ended up pregnant with our youngest. I love my daughter dearly, no regrets there. But after she was born, I quietly had a tubal ligation. My mother has never let go of her judgment. She used to call me broken because I only had 2 children, and she never missed a chance to criticize me for marrying late. I tied the knot at 23, but she was already married by 16. My husband passed away not long ago. He was 50 when he died in a traffic accident. We had 2 daughters together, now 15 and 17. What I hadn't expected was that he'd been seeing someone else since 2021. The woman was 25 when she died in that same accident. Earlier this year, she gave birth to twin boys, who, fortunately, made it through the crash. It was our daughters who uncovered the affair. Their father brought them to the hospital to meet the newborns and told them not to breathe a word of it to me. Of course, they told me everything. After that, things escalated quickly. He became verbally aggressive with both the girls and me. We were already heading toward divorce when the accident happened. Once the truth about his relationship came to light, my mother immediately pointed the finger at me. She said it was my fault for being a career-focused woman, that I hadn't had enough children, that I'd somehow failed to keep him interested. According to her, I wasn't attractive enough anymore. I won't claim to be stunning, but I take care of myself. I've stayed relatively fit, and most people say I look younger than I am. Still, in her eyes, none of that mattered. She insisted he strayed because I couldn't hold his attention, and he needed someone practically the same age as our daughters. She was also among those who lashed out at me when I made it clear I wouldn't be adopting the boys he fathered with the other woman. Lately, she's gone even further off the rails. She's become obsessed with finding suitable husbands for my daughters, especially my older one. This bizarre mission began just days ago, after my eldest came out to us. I had my suspicions, and I'm genuinely proud of her for trusting both me and her sister enough to be honest, especially with everything we've been through. She even told my mother, which in hindsight was a mistake. My mom hung up on her. A little while later, she called me in a fury, ranting that my daughter was confused and sick. Since then, she's been sending me links to all kinds of things: conversion programs, fringe psychologists claiming orientation is an illness, opinion pieces pushing political nonsense, even stuff about spiritual cleansings. Yes, really. She mentioned trying an exorcism. I told her firmly that if she didn't stop, she'd be completely cut off from my in-laws. She backed off for about a day. Then, I got a message on social media from a man in his mid-20s asking if it was true I was looking to arrange a marriage for my 17-year-old daughter. I blocked him instantly and told him what he was doing was disturbing. That night, 6 more messages came in from different men. The next morning, my mother called again, cheerfully claiming she'd found marriage candidates for both of my teenage daughters. Saying I'm angry doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. She even went so far as to give some of these men my daughter's personal phone numbers. We're getting new numbers tomorrow, and I've had both girls switch all their social accounts to private. At this point, I honestly don't know what's gone wrong in my mother's mind. I had my daughters block her on everything, and I've decided to cut off all financial support I'd been giving her. Deep down, I know I need to involve the authorities. I just never imagined I'd be in a position where I'd have to report my own mother. It's only been 2 weeks since I had to distance myself from my in-laws, and I'm already running on empty. And before anyone assumes this behavior is part of some cultural norm, please don't. This isn't some typical thing. My aunts, who were mostly stay-at-home moms themselves, are wonderful women. They've been completely supportive of my decision to cut my mother off and go to the police. They even encouraged me to consider moving with the girls to be closer to them, in a different state. This isn't about culture. This is about my mother going way beyond the line. Quick update. We went to the police station today and handed over every bit of information I had. The officer we spoke to was outstanding, took everything seriously, and helped my lawyer set the groundwork for a temporary restraining order. We'll be filing it within the week and hope to have it in place within the month. After that, we'll start working toward making it permanent. This order will apply to my mother and anyone acting under her direction. The officer also kindly offered to check on our home daily for the time being. The school has been notified about the situation, and one of my brothers is moving in with us for now to provide extra support. As much as I'd like to leave, I can't just pack up and go. I still have my job, and my daughters are right in the middle of the school year. For the time being, we're safe, and my girls now have new phone numbers. We finally got a bit of good news today regarding my mother. Starting in December 2024, she'll be completely on her own financially. There's also an active investigation into what she attempted with my daughters and, unexpectedly, an old case tied to a family issue, something I'm not able to discuss just yet, has been reopened. Because minors are involved in the current situation, there's a good chance the restraining order will be fast-tracked. We're hoping it'll move forward quickly. This order would also cover a few others who've been trying to contact me, mainly folks from my late husband's side of the family. On another front, the girls and I had a long talk, and we all agreed that we don't feel comfortable in our house anymore. That's been hard to admit. This place was my childhood home, a gift from my father, and I always thought it would stay in the family. But lately, the house feels heavy, full of memories we'd rather not sit with. Every corner reminds me of my husband's betrayal, and the girls don't like being so close to their grandparents. My brother, who's been staying with us, didn't sugarcoat it either. He said the house just brings more pain than peace. So, as hard as it is, I've decided to make some updates to the house and either sell it or rent it out. It's much bigger than we need. 9 bedrooms. Far too much space for the 3 of us. I'd be more than happy with something smaller, where the girls can each have their own room and I can finally set up a proper office. My brother will be moving with us as well, at least for now. Whether it becomes a long-term arrangement is still up in the air, but he's been incredibly helpful, especially for my older daughter. She's been going through a lot since coming out, and while I've tried to be supportive, I'm still learning. My brother, who came out nearly 30 years ago, has been an amazing source of knowledge and comfort. He's helped her find resources, offered thoughtful advice, and been there in ways I simply couldn't, especially after everything that's happened with our mother. My younger daughter has been doing noticeably better lately. She's back to chatting like her usual self and doesn't seem as anxious about leaving the house anymore. She's actually gotten really into the idea of finding us a new place. She's on a mission to help me find the perfect yard. So we'll see what's out there. Work also offered me the option to transfer to a different state and even mentioned a possible international move, though I don't see that one happening. Still, a fresh start in a new place sounds like exactly what we need right now. That's really where things stand for the moment. Not a ton of big updates, just me feeling more settled about some choices, especially after reading people's input and talking things through with those close to me. Starting this November, I'm drawing a hard line. I've decided not to recognize my mother's presence in my life anymore. In my heart, both my parents left when my father passed. The girls and I have started checking out neighborhoods on weekends. It's become something we look forward to, just the 3 of us in the car, stopping for iced tea or lunch, rating every house we see like it's a contest show. My oldest says she wants somewhere with trees. My youngest still wants her dream yard, and I just want a quiet street with no drama attached to it. We found a couple of places worth keeping an eye on. Nothing definite yet, but it feels good to have a plan forming. My brother's been helping us too, especially with things I'd never think to ask, like checking cell service in the area and researching school rankings. This stage feels lighter, like we're beginning to breathe again after holding it in for too long. I also finally started therapy. I'd been putting it off for months, telling myself I could handle it all on my own. But the truth is, I've been carrying more weight than I even realized. My therapist has helped me put things into perspective, not just about my mother and my husband, but about the kind of life I want going forward. I didn't expect how emotional it would be to talk about the betrayal, not just my husband's, but my mother's too. There's something painful about realizing you were never fully protected by the people who were supposed to look out for you, but naming it, sitting with it, it's helping. My oldest daughter asked if she could start therapy too, and I'm proud of her for it. She doesn't want to carry these things into adulthood. I think that's wise. There was a moment last week that really hit me. I caught my youngest daughter sitting on the floor of her room, carefully drawing floor plans for her dream house. She had crayons out, sketches of swing sets, garden beds, even a doghouse. We don't even have a dog. She looked up and said, "When we move, I want it to feel like it's just ours, like we're not still living in other people's stories." It stunned me hearing that from a 10-year-old. But she's right. That house we're in now, it doesn't belong to who we are anymore. It belongs to a past we've outgrown, and maybe even escaped. I've also started going through the house, room by room, sorting out what to keep, what to donate, and what needs to go. It's harder than I thought it would be. Not because I'm attached to the things, but because of the memories tucked inside them. My father's tools are still in the garage. My husband's old ties still hang in our closet. I found a shoebox of letters he once wrote to me, years before things went wrong. I didn't read them. I just packed them into a sealed bin and set them aside. Some pieces of the past don't need to be relived, they just need to be respectfully put away. The restraining order was approved on a temporary basis. My lawyer said we should hear back about the permanent one within the next few weeks. It covers not just my mother, but anyone acting on her behalf, which includes a couple of her friends who tried reaching out recently. One of them had the nerve to leave a note on our front porch. It was written like some kind of plea for family unity, but it didn't mention my daughters at all. It was all about my mother's feelings, her loneliness, and how I was being ungrateful. I didn't even open the envelope, straight to my lawyer. Family doesn't mean tolerating harm. I've stopped confusing the two. We toured a place yesterday that we all really liked. It's nothing extravagant. 4 bedrooms, a cozy living area, and a backyard that's just the right size for a garden, and maybe even a hammock. My youngest measured the yard with her arms and declared it officially perfect. We haven't made an offer yet, but just seeing it helped us feel excited again. I caught my oldest daughter smiling at the thought of painting her own room. She wants to do pale blue walls and cover one side with poetry prints. It's a small thing, but in a way it felt like we were reclaiming something. I had a dream recently where I was back in my childhood home, but all the rooms were empty and echoing. I walked through it alone, and every door I opened led to another version of myself. Some scared, some angry, some just tired. I woke up feeling shaken but also strangely clear-headed. Maybe that's how grief works sometimes. It moves in quiet waves, then lets you go for a while. I think I'm finally ready to let that house go, not just physically, but emotionally. It was never meant to carry all this weight. My brother and I have also been talking more, really talking. It's been years since we've lived under the same roof, and I forgot how easy it is to be around him. He has a way of calming things down without forcing anything. He'll just sit near my daughter and listen while she talks about school or offer advice when she asks. No pressure. He told me the other day, "You did the right thing walking away. Some people will never see it that way, but your kids will." That meant more to me than he knows. The school counselor called me yesterday to check in, and I can't say enough good things about her. She's been a solid ally for my oldest, especially now that word has started to spread about everything that happened with my mother. My daughter told me some classmates asked her about it, and she handled it better than I would have at her age. She just said, "That's not my story to explain, and I'm doing okay." That kind of strength, that's what tells me we're going to be just fine. We've officially listed the house. The agent came by, took photos, and said she thinks it'll sell fast because of the space. I walked through it one more time before she left. Just the quiet creak of floorboards, the old smells of wood polish and worn carpet. I touched the doorway where we used to mark the girls' heights. Ran my hand along the windowsill my father installed. And then I stepped outside and didn't look back. The future isn't going to build itself, but we're finally ready to start laying the foundation. We've been living out of boxes lately, and oddly enough, it's been kind of nice. Meals are simpler, the house feels less cluttered, and we've been spending more time together in one room. Last night, we ate takeout on the floor and ended up playing cards for hours. My oldest laughed more than I've seen in months. My youngest made up her own rules, as usual, and somehow still won. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like we were waiting for something bad to happen. It felt like home, even if the house technically isn't anymore. The restraining order was officially made permanent this week. It covers my mother, a few extended relatives, and anyone else who tries to intervene on her behalf. It wasn't a moment of celebration, just quiet relief. The officer who first took our report even called to let us know. He remembered my daughters by name, said he was glad to see the order go through. Sometimes it surprises me, the small kindnesses from strangers that end up meaning the most. That night, my oldest said, "So, that means she can't come near us again?" And I said, "That's right." She didn't say anything after that, just nodded and went back to her book. But I could tell she finally felt safer. We accepted an offer on the house. It happened faster than I expected. A young couple with a baby came by, fell in love with the layout, and made an offer within a few days. They said they wanted to raise their family somewhere, with history. That part almost made me pause. But it's time to let this chapter belong to someone else. We'll take our history with us in the ways that matter. The good memories aren't locked inside the walls. They're in us. And the rest, that can stay behind. I've started packing up my father's things, the last room in the house I'd been avoiding. His tools, some old notebooks, a jacket still hanging behind the door. I found a note he wrote to my mother. Long before things ever became strained between us, it was simple, just a line about picking up bread and saying he missed her laugh. It hit me harder than I expected. For all the damage she's caused, I believe she was once loved. Deeply. I just wish she had passed any of that warmth on to her children. I'm keeping the note, though, not for her. For him. We've narrowed it down to 2 houses in the new area. One is smaller but has this cozy little reading nook my oldest is obsessed with. The other has the yard my youngest keeps daydreaming about. My brother's vote is for whichever place has the better kitchen. It's strange to be choosing based on joy rather than survival. That's what I keep telling myself. This next place isn't about escaping. It's about building a life that's finally ours, with no ghosts in the walls. My youngest asked me this morning, "Do you think we'll ever stop talking about all the bad stuff?" And I told her the truth. Maybe not. But it won't feel as heavy as it does now. I don't want to erase the past. I want my daughters to grow up knowing they can speak about it without shame, without fear. We're not trying to pretend it never happened. We're just learning how to move through it without getting stuck. Healing isn't silent, it just gets quieter over time. We put in an offer on the house with the backyard. It's not the bigger one, and it doesn't have all the fancy finishes, but it has heart. A wide yard with space to grow vegetables, a little shed we could turn into a studio or reading room, and just enough space for us to be together without stepping on each other. The girls were beaming when we signed the papers. My brother already called dibs on the small guest room. I think this is it. I think we're really doing it, starting again, this time by choice. There's not much I can reveal yet, but we finally have a court date set for the permanent restraining order. It's taken longer than I thought it would, but at least now there's a clear path forward. In the meantime, things have been relatively calm. No surprises, no late-night messages, just space to breathe. That alone has been a gift. Once I'm allowed to share more, I will. But for now, we're just taking things one day at a time and holding on to the peace we've worked so hard to create.